Welcome back to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your host, Daryl Wingfield. Today, we're going to be talking about the significance of that time right before you go to sleep and that time right after you wake up. And literally, what goes on in our heads and our minds right before, we shut down or we start, revving our bodies up to get ready and get up for the day. If you are interested in that, stay tuned. This is going to be very special. And if you're new to this podcast, go check out the previous podcast to get a better feel for the, the culture here and the feel here. The goal is to inspire you guys to do more than what you're capable of and achieve a more fulfilling life. We are born into something crazy, man, where we don't really understand how high the highs are, how low the lows are, how vast this thing is. And that at times can be very, very overwhelming, especially the older that you get and the older that you start to understand what is going on around you. Like when you first born into this world, you literally have no concept or no preconceived notion of what this thing is. You it's almost as if you pop up into it, but it's in a way where before you popped up, everything that was going on was going on before you was here, and you kind of get born into it and gotta accept this thing for what it is. But through that, you get taught all of these different things on the way that you're supposed to be living through your parents, through your teachers, through the people in your community, and pretty much what you see them doing every time you walk outside your house. Now, this is coming from, I guess, the perspective of when you were like a child, and then you take those things the older that you get and you freaking run with it, you know? And the significance of the time right before you go to sleep is kind of it's crazy. For me personally speaking, when I go to sleep, it's as if I'm recapping my day. Sometimes it goes on of me recapping a certain moment in my life, a certain time period, and at times it ramps my brain up so much to the point where it's hard for me to sleep. And when I was 19, 20, 21 years old, these things would kind of feel like a haunting thing because of what I was getting myself into compared to who I was trying to be, you know? And at those moments when I knew like I was going to school to get my degree, my bachelor's degree in either psychology or sports management. Psychology was the first thing my freshman year until I switched over the second year to sports management. Sports management. I can't even talk. But during that time period, as you guys know, if you listen to the previous podcast, I wasn't really paying attention to shit in school. My mind was definitely somewhere else. And as I started to gear away from a school based mindset of learning, getting my education, it turned into a deep, I developed a deep void within myself where it just, nothing felt right. Everything felt off. And it almost was as if I was placed in the wrong place in the wrong time, and I had to just simply deal with it. because my goal was to play college basketball when I did go to college. I didn't really care about getting my degree in sports management or psychology. But when I didn't get that chance to play uh, college basketball due to my grades and stuff like that, it was it was bad. And that's when I started developing this nihilistic standpoint of the world where it was like if this don't happen, there's literally no point to any of this, you know? And I around this time, like of course, like you guys know, talk about this plenty, but this is when these behaviors started cooking up that I wouldn't say in high school was there, like here and there, but not something habitual where I started using alcohol as like a form of escape, and also around this time I started smoking as well, which is something that I told you guys that I used as a form of escape as well. And I was transferring from school to school. I only transferred twice actually, from Wilmington University to my local community college, and then I tried to transfer to Kane University to go there to play basketball. But my GPA was so bad that they didn't accept me, and it was one of those things where I put my all into one basket. So if this thing didn't work out, I did not see me. I didn't know how I was going to exist. You know what I mean? To be quite honest, and this is when, right before I would go to sleep, these things would feel like they was haunting me. Like, how can I get out of this situation? What can I do to get out of this situation? And at the time, it wasn't no optimistic way of thinking. And these kind of thoughts will literally keep me up all night until, 4 o'clock in the morning, because I was just sometimes be petrified of what my future would look like. And for our bodies in general, this is not a good thing to have it in hyperdrive uh, right before we supposed to be shutting it down and giving it a rest. This messes up our circadian rhythm, which is like with one accord with nature. And if you throw in uh, alcohol on top of that, if you throw in, the activities that come with, drinking alcohol, going out all night, uh, just doing whatever you can to try to escape this sort of depressive reality that you built for yourself. This stuff is like dangerous. And this continued on for quite some time for me. It honestly, I want to say, lasted a good 5 years. And this messed up my sleep pattern tremendously. I would be getting anywhere from 4 to 5 hours on a good day of sleep due to the fact that I didn't feel comfortable sleeping, to be quite honest. And then when I wake up, it was like such a sense of dread for the day that it's almost as if I didn't want to get out of bed and handle the stuff um, that was waiting for me. And the more I kept doing this form of escapism, the more it felt like my problems was piling up on me. And it really started getting me more and more to a drastic I don't give a fuck type mindset, to the point where I started maneuvering that way. And since I wasn't respecting myself, that automatically meant I wasn't respecting others as well. And how often, it may not be that extreme for you guys, but I bet when, you know, you go to sleep and you think about like certain dreams that you have or aspirations or even sometimes the regret and mistakes that you've made in the past. It's like we can't help but to think like that because it is human nature, but it's as if it keeps us in this weird space where we're stuck. We can't move forwards because we're so grounded in the regret of the past and also grounded in the fear of the future. So there's no real way to create like possibility and this thinking. Only thing that it leads to is more of those negative things that you're trying to get away from, and this void that gets more and more bigger and bigger and bigger. Because the one thing I can say is just that a dangerous thing to do is not to attach meaning to this life because you can look at this life as if it was meaningless, and you will be right. Just by, like I said in the beginning of this podcast episode, of how vast things get and how deep things get. You know, you can't necessarily get to the bottom of an emotion the more you keep deeply feeling it, whether that's a high or a low. And I can say that due to the fact that I went extreme with so many things that once I got to my personal end of the road with those things, I realized that the it was whatever meaning that I attached to it to begin with that ultimately told the story in itself for why it ended up the way it ended up. And I'm not the only person that do this. We all do this, and that's how we attach certain meanings to certain things in our life, depending on what the significance is, you know. And for me, experiencing two different, I guess, extremes of my psyche, I was able to find a middle line between the two of things going well and things going to absolute shit. And riding that fine line and dancing in between those two is ideally what you should be doing until you cross over to the other side. And what I mean by that is, until you die, experience until you experience death. I can only have my own speculation for life outside of what happens, you know what I mean? But we are blessed with so many different inspirations, hearing so many people's perspective on what life is and seeing from what their perspective is the beauty that they can create from it. And we get that through things like music, movies, TV shows, books, um, different YouTube content, videos. There's so many outlets that people use to express themselves and show through different mediums of honestly this experience, and you can you can capitalize on these things. And first, when you first wake up, you know these is one of those moments where you're at the crossroads of so many different things, man, and your brain wave is operating, I believe, at like a like theta brainwave, which is like so smooth and so it's not that active. So it's kind of still in a dream state. And if you think about that compared to when you're in the middle of your day, you know how much things is firing off, how much are you trying to like control your day, control your thoughts. It's like the sense of control is so strongly there that it's kind of hard to, experience a new, different way of thinking that's outside of this program that you set yourself in to get going. So that's why it's very important to take control over these moments, like especially specifically right before you go to sleep, and definitely in the morning, because when you wake up, you think about sometimes the regret that comes with the life you live to get to that point, some of the mistakes that you made, probably some of the people's feelings and that you hurt, or even so the people that hurt your feelings, and going out and stepping out into that world once again. That's that's tough. It's difficult, especially when you don't even have a grounding on your sense of reality and what you're trying to do, and you're still trying to find yourself amongst this madness that goes on constantly, this freaking madness that's constantly going on. And you have to break these stuff down. And what makes life scary is when you take too much in at one given time. And when I used to get straight plastered and be on like level 1,000, and take substances and to that sort of extreme, it would make me take actions in those kind of extremes as well, because I wasn't in my right state of mind, and it made it easier to do the things that I was thinking about, I guess, doing or feeling or being. But once those stuff started to wear off and reality started to set in again, I would feel incredibly shitty about that build up to get me into that mind state of like, yo, I could conquer the world. You know what I mean? Because it was like a false representation of conquering the world instead of what it was grounded in reality. And every morning when I would wake up after like a binge, I would feel all of those decisions. They would freaking kind of haunt me, and the actions that I took from that previous night or that whole previous day. And it's like, dag, like, how did I get here? Where am I? What am I doing? All of this crazy type of stuff. And like I told you guys, once things started really picking up with these bad decisions that I was like making, that ultimately led me to being arrested, being in so many situations where I came close to being arrested, or came close to, I guess, losing my life from, operating a vehicle when I'm completely, done up and putting other people's lives in danger, but I necessarily wasn't thinking about them. I was just riding out this wave of me feeling good, and that's very, very dangerous and is very inconsiderate to the environment around me. But a lot of people are still stuck in that kind of conundrum, and me, I believe that it's comes from a lack of self-awareness for how one feel to get to that point. They think they do, but if you keep digging deep, you start to realize that it comes from a part of you that's very suppressed, that's looking to express itself, but we do it sometimes in such a negative connotation that it brings out the monster in us instead of the angel in us. And through basketball, the meaning of basketball, that helped me pull me back to what my reality was, and what meaning that I was trying to shape out of this reality. But that same thing is just like a knife. Basketball was like my knife, or the universal knife. You can use it to kill somebody. You can use it to prep your food. It's so many different things that you can use this tool for. This tool is necessarily not good or bad. It's whoever's wielding this knife that's going to, I guess, make the meaning for what that knife is. The knife is just the tool, And just last Thursday, me and my mom are starting to do 30-minute live shows in regards to purpose serve and different aspects of what purpose is and the meaning of life and how to go about living a life to the fullest and expressing yourself to the fullest, and talking about goals being that thing, and how inanimate objects such as this camera that I'm using, this microphone, uh, the software that I'm using to upload it, these are inanimate objects, but the animate person, the spirit that's using this, can use it to bring some sort of meaning to this chaotic thing that we're living in that has some sort of order within it as well. Of course, I'm always like going off on like the deep end, but you have to find that. Everybody has to find what that meaning to them is, and it's a very, very extremely powerful source to get you through some rocky, tough times, and it definitely 100% did that for me when I questioned my own abilities to get certain things done that I deeply cared about. And basketball was that thing for me. And when I was going through this process of using escapism to try to heal myself, it was really destroying me. But I was using that form of escapism from the realities I would constantly hear from people saying, um, the odds of you becoming a professional basketball player is very slim. It's impossible. You would need to do this. You would need to go to this D1 school. You don't have this. Like, look how you're built. All of these things. And it's something that I disagreed with, but there's a part of me that believed in it that made me start to slowly but surely give up on myself and give in to the circumstances and do whatever that I could to block those things out, but it would enhance a negative part of myself. And my relationship with my mom started to dwindle away. My relationship with my dad started to dwindle away. My brother Devontae started looking at me different, and even my brothers and sisters, they had no real concept of what I was going through due to the fact of how young they was. Like, uh, my brother under me is 25 years old, and then right under that, my two brothers is both 17 and 16, and two sisters that's 14 and 12, and my baby brother that's 8 years old. When now we're talking about when I was 21, 20, they were much younger than what they are now, and it was sometimes hurt when they would look at me in a certain light, but all reality, I knew when I was leaving that I was, you know, looking to get drunk or get high or see this girl to have sex and all of these different mental processes because I wasn't nowhere near where I wanted to be, and I needed something to make me feel good about that. Jesus Christ, they hear me say that out loud. It's kind of weird. It's from episode one of Purpose Served. There has been a journey for me with learning as well how to express myself in other avenues outside of simply just playing basketball, because there's a deep need within me through not only this platform but other platforms that I'm in the process of building right now for people to have something, a purpose in mind, an intention in mind, and more specifically a goal in mind that they're trying to accomplish, and how can they put those things into baby steps to acquire a skill and learn a knowledge or learn a new behavior to transform themselves into the person that they ideally see themselves as. That feels like right now, currently, that's like my mission, and I kind of over overpowered. Um, it kind of overpowered my basketball dream, and isn't that a conundrum in itself? You know, after everything that I pretty much, I pretty much just said, with basketball being that tool and me being that animated spirit and using that as a form of expression is kind of like a ebb and flow of me losing meaning and finding meaning within this whole entire process in a sense. With me starting Purpose Served, basketball has definitely took a back seat, and this was starting in right before my birthday, right before October. The podcast life sucks. I'm gonna put it up here somewhere to for you guys to see, and actually, it was in this setting as well. How ironic is that? But around that time, it was as if God was trying to tell me that there was a higher sense of purpose that I had to accept that was bigger than basketball, but use basketball as a means to tell that story. But basketball wasn't the is not the end all be all. And me listening to God in that sense and that stronger spirit, that source, it made me feel very, very down and scared about what my future was going to hold. Because from 14 years old, that's that was everything. I didn't really at 14 years old was looking to inspire other people to create. I just wanted to go to the NBA and live that NBA lifestyle of just doing nothing but playing basketball. But 14 years old, I did not know that even for these top NBA players, that basketball wasn't everything. It was other ways of expression that they had to use to fully bring out their capabilities, but basketball was simply the tool to get that done. And if you look at guys like LeBron James, Stephen Curry, these guys has propelled their career forward through this tool, but that tool opened so many other doors for LeBron James to be in movies, for him to have his own sneaker, for him to have so many other companies. Same thing with Stephen Curry. It's just that, and they also are in a way propelling the next generation, not only through basketball, but just life. And like I said, it's so much that simply comes with just living in those moments, just bringing it back to sleeping, like right before you go to sleep and right when you wake up. It's kind of like those same things kind of happen to you in the way thoughts hit you in reverse, where you're trying to unwind at nighttime, but a lot of things is starting to hit you. And then when you wake up, nothing is not really hitting you. But then as you start to really, break out of that delta, I guess, brainwave. Well, I don't know the scientific terms, but when your thoughts is still kind of in that unconscious, not really conscious about you being up, you're kind of in that sleep state, but these things start to hit you of your capabilities, what you've done, what you haven't done. You got to go to work. You got to do this. You got to take care of your kids. You got responsibility. You got your family. And when all of this stuff start to hit you at once, they can really just take over take over everything, and you can look at this like look at your day like, yo, this day is about to be a bummer, and I dead ass don't even want to get out of bed. Like I much rather just sleep. I much rather sleep this whole day through, and it's in a way you're accepting part of your death and not wanting to do anything about that. And necessarily on the opposite end, to sit there and amp yourself up to take feel like you're going about to take over the world, you can use that, but there will be come a point in time where that same exact feeling is gonna fuck you over. To be quite honest, sorry, Mog. If you heard that, I really do apologize. But in a way where it's gonna burn you out at some given point. And yet again, I always do a special shout out to my Yoda master, Grace. She's been helping me process these things that and what to be mindful about, and what to rev down, and understand when it is to absolutely chill and know when I need rest and not rev it up. Because if y'all don't notice about my personality, it's easy for me to talk myself into doing something subtle, drastic, crazy, the whole nine. You know, like the January 1st, when, like I told you guys on New Year's, when I came in my house and I was pretty lit up, and my mom said I had to go. I did not know what the hell I was about to do, but I was so crazy with accepting my fate and accepting things for what it is, that I was willing to step outside into a world where I honestly felt like I was going to be consumed and the world was going to chew me up and spit me out. But I was ready for that. In fact, I was like, that would be cool if it does do that to me, so then I wouldn't have to deal with any of the rest of this BS. But it's kind of like a accepting my mortality in some sort of way. to to think about it, like at the time, my brother had got my Toyota Corolla. I didn't have a job, and I was broke as a freaking joke. You know, I don't even think at the time that like I had a bank account because it got shut down. You know, and this is like 2017, and in that span of 2017, I experienced so freaking much. I was working at Panera Bread in the beginning of that year, and then ended up playing basketball in Spain and seeing that beautiful world for what it was, which opened my mind to my capabilities, what I really wanted to do, what I was scared of, and what I was truly capable of. And I didn't think I was. And then I come back stateside, and it's as if all my vices, every last one of them, was waiting for me. And there was a part of me that couldn't wait to get back to it. Crazy enough, even like while I was in Spain, it was just like I couldn't wait to get back home. A part of me couldn't wait, just to come back home and end up working at Boston Market as a dishwasher because of me being so neglectful about what I just experienced and just trying to have fun again, because playing basketball over there, it was so serious. I never experienced it. And it felt like, I lived my dreams for a little bit. Now I get to relax and enjoy myself. And at the end of all of that, I lost it. I lost it all. And I didn't understand how fast it happened. And it kind of brought me back to when I was in college and kind of did the same exact thing. And it's like, damn, I'm following this cynical nature of building and destroying and building and destroying. I didn't know what that was going to be necessarily pertaining to, but it was something that I felt as though I had to obsess over, around this time. I lost a couple of close friends due to my personal decision making that even to this day, I still regret. And, even with the person and how bold I am now, I don't even have of enough nuts to try to rekindle the friendships and the situations that I burnt because of these thinking processes that I would go through. And these things would hit me when right before I would go to sleep and when I would wake up, and then I would move accordingly with those thoughts, you know. But to those of you guys that's out there who get hindered by some of these thoughts that creep up on you and these strong ass feelings that creep up on you at night and even so in the morning, break it down into things that you can handle that's going to progress you forward one step at a time and dance in between those lines, man, of chaos and some sort of order, which is something that I'm learning from this book. Thanks to Gerald, who was also on this podcast, man. Gerald, you are that dude, man. I get into some deep, crazy, great conversations with Gerald, whether through text message, phone call, when we run into each other at the gym, man. And last time I seen him, which was probably last week, he gave me this book by Jordan B. Peterson, 12 Rules for Life, which is something that another podcast that I listen to on here, not on here, Only Positivity. This dude has a freaking great podcast, literally talking about any kind of vibe, man. But one of them I had to skip over because I had just got the book and I seen that the episode was referencing that book. But I was like, yo, I have to finish this book in order to fully comprehend this podcast episode. But shout out to him as well. And this book is also talking about the dance between that line of order and chaos and how it's a forever going thing. And don't be afraid to participate in it, because we are participating in it, whether of our wanting to or not. It just happens. Know when you need your rest. Know when it is time to buckle down on doing what you got to do. Know when it is to enjoy yourself and have fun. At the end of the day, everything is going to play itself out in the way that it needs to. And this is something that I guess in a way I need to hear myself say it, but also there's a deep part of me that feels as though someone else needed to hear this as well. And I just put out a video in reference to my journey. If you are watching this, it's probably going to be somewhere up here. It's called The Journey. But if you're listening to this, it's on my YouTube channel, Purpose Served, which is about how Purpose Served got started. What Purpose Served is, for those of you who just think that this is just a podcast, you are sadly mistaken. It's much more than that. This is just, I guess, a way for me to express myself and get other people on here that have to have a story to tell as well through their form of expression of them challenging their own capabilities to get to wherever it is that they're trying to go, through writing books, through making artwork, through making music, through helping other people achieve their fitness goals, through law enforcement, through anything. This is what this podcast represents. Setting goals and achieving those goals. That's simply put. And through other programs that I'm going to start running, and services, that's literally what the mission is, solely what the mission is. And this podcast is just one outlet for me to get that done. And I really do appreciate everybody for being a part of this journey. And like I said, if you made it this far, thank you. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a comment for suggestions for type of guests that you want, content that you would like to hear me talk about. And also, simply serve your purpose. And please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. And I love you all. Have a good one. I'm out. What do I say? Deuces.